Welcome back to Becoming Ultimate Masters. We're diving deep today.
Into
the world of Krishna. We're exploring some fascinating parallels between Eastern and Western spiritual traditions.
Okay.
We've got a thought-provoking transcript here.
Interesting.
From a YouTube video by William Donahue.
All right.
It's titled 103 Introduction to Krishna. It's hair, not hairy.
Wow.
You ready to unpack this?
Absolutely.
Donahue makes some pretty bold connections right off the bat.
Yeah.
He suggests that these ancient teachings are relevant for us today, regardless of our background or beliefs.
Right from the start.
Yeah.
Donahue drops a bombshell.
Oh, what's that?
Saying that Hare Krishna translates to Christ the Son.
Whoa.
And Sri Krishna to Christ the King.
I mean, that's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It really makes you wonder if there's more to this than just a coincidence.
Just a linguistic coincidence?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that Donahue, he isn't just pointing out linguistic similarities. He's using them to highlight deeper parallels between the stories of Krishna and Jesus.
I see.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Both involve divine conception, a king threatening newborns, and a hidden birth.
Right.
These shared narratives suggest there might be a universal pattern at play.
Okay.
Archetypal stories that speak to a common human experience of the divine.
Interesting. Okay, so let's say these parallels are more than just coincidence.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway for us? Why should we care about these shared stories?
That's the key question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Donahue argues that these parallels point to a shared philosophy and a universal truth about consciousness.
Okay.
Both Krishna and Christ are presented as guides, inviting souls back to a place of peace and connection with the divine.
I see.
It's like he's suggesting that their teachings, though expressed in different forms, ultimately point towards the same goal.
Okay.
Awakening to our true nature.
So we're not just talking about ancient history here.
No.
We're talking about something that could have a real impact on our lives today.
Absolutely.
But how do we connect with this true nature?
That's a good question.
Where do we even begin?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Donahue describes Krishna residing in palaces of touchstone.
Touchstone.
Yeah.
Go.
He explains that touchstone is a black limestone traditionally used to test the purity of silver and gold.
Okay.
Now stay with me here.
All right.
Because this is where Donahue makes a leap.
Okay.
That might seem a bit out there at first.
Okay, I'm all ears laid on me.
He connects this touchstone to the pineal gland and the potential for spiritual awakening within each of us.
Interesting.
It's like he's saying this palace isn't some far-off mythical place. It's within us.
Okay.
This touchstone represents that spark of the divine, that potential for spiritual transformation that we all possess.
Hold on.
Okay.
I need to process this for a second.
Sure.
So how does testing the purity of metal relate to spiritual awakening? It seems like we're jumping between very different concepts here.
That's where Donahue's insights get really thought-provoking.
Okay.
He links this idea of the touchstone to Jesus's words.
Yeah.
I am cut to send fire on the earth.
Right.
He suggests that this fire symbolizes the fire of spiritual awakening, the activation of the pineal gland, the place where spirit and matter meet.
I see.
The black stone, like the Kaaba hidden D within, represents this potential waiting to be unlocked.
Okay.
Practices like meditation.
So he's saying that ancient wisdom traditions, like those surrounding Krishna and Christ, might have understood something about human consciousness that we're only now beginning to rediscover.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he even brings up a modern-day connection to this idea.
Oh, really?
Donahue mentions a newspaper article about how magnets can stimulate melatonin production, which is linked to the pineal gland.
Okay.
Now, whether or not you agree with his interpretation, it raises an important question.
Yeah, what's that?
Could modern science be catching up with ancient wisdom about meditation and the pineal gland?
That is wild. I'm starting to see how Donahue is weaving together these seemingly disparate ideas, ancient symbolism, biblical references, and even modern scientific findings, all pointing to this idea of inner transformation.
And he doesn't stop there.
Oh.
He goes on to use the imagery of trees and cows to represent mankind and spiritual nourishment.
Trees and cows.
Yeah.
Right.
He even ties this back to Psalm 1.3, which describes a blessed person as a tree planted by water.
Okay, now this is where I'm feeling a bit lost.
Okay.
How do trees and cows fit into this whole picture? What's the connection?
Donahue uses these symbols to illustrate how we can draw nourishment from a divine source and transform our thoughts into something that nourishes our spirit.
Okay.
It's like he's creating an inner landscape for us to explore.
I see.
The tree represents our grounded selves, rooted in truth, and drawing sustenance from something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And the cow.
Yeah.
Well, think of it as our ability to process thoughts and experiences, transforming them into wisdom and understanding.
I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
It's like we're all capable of taking those scattered, often negative thoughts and turning them into something pure and nourishing.
Right.
Just like a cow transforms grass into milk.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning of Donahue's exploration. He goes on to delve into even more fascinating symbolism.
Oh, like what?
Like Krishna's flute and his lotus petal eyes.
Interesting.
But we'll save that for our next deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm already hooked.
So before we got sidetracked there, we were talking about how Donahue uses symbolism to illustrate these deeper spiritual concepts.
Yeah. And speaking of lenses.
Oh, yeah.
What about Krishna's eyes? Donahue mentions they're like lotus petals.
Yes.
Which seems pretty significant.
Absolutely. The lotus flower.
Yeah.
It's a powerful symbol in many spiritual traditions.
I see.
It grows from the mud, but it blossoms into something beautiful and pure.
Right.
Donahue connects this imagery to the idea of wisdom and beauty emerging from the challenges and imperfections of life, just like the lotus.
Yeah.
We, too, can rise above our circumstances and reach for enlightenment.
So it's not about denying the messy reality of life, but rather about finding beauty and meaning.
Exactly.
And it's the chaos.
And then there's the flute. Donahue describes it as representing the universal sound that awakens the divine within.
Interesting.
It's a call to tune in, to listen for that inner harmony that connects us to something greater.
You know, when I think about all these symbols, the touchstone, the fire, the tree, the cow, the lotus, the flute, it paints such a vivid picture.
It does.
It's like Donahue is giving us a map to an inner landscape, a world within ourselves that's just waiting to be explored.
And that's a key point. Donahue isn't just presenting these ideas as abstract concepts. He's grounding them in relatable imagery and symbolism that can spark our imagination and inspire us to look inward. He even connects Krishna's blue skin to the unseen spirit.
Interesting.
Echoing descriptions of Christ coming in the clouds.
It emphasizes how these spiritual truths transcend any specific cultural or religious framework.
This is all starting to make sense.
Good.
But how do we actually apply these ideas to our lives? I mean, it's one thing to talk about inner transformation, but it's another thing to actually experience it.
That's where Donahue's call to action comes in. He challenges us to move beyond blind faith and intellectualization and to engage in practices that allow us to connect with the divine within. It's about taking action, not just waiting for a miracle.
So it's not about passively accepting dogma or waiting for someone else to show us the way.
Exactly.
It's about actively seeking our own truth, our own connection to the divine.
Precisely.
Donahue encourages us to explore our own consciousness and experience the transformative power of spiritual awakening.
He even criticizes the idea of waiting for some external savior
to come and fix everything.
Interesting.
He reminds us that we're already living in a time of great awakening, a time of immense transformation.
I see.
And it's up to each of us to participate in this shift.
That's pretty empowering, isn't it?
It is.
To think that we have the power to create a more harmonious and awakened world, starting with ourselves.
Exactly.
But how do we do that? Where do we even begin?
Donahue emphasizes the power of meditation as a way to connect with that inner touchstone. to quiet the mind and find that stillness within.
I see.
It's not about escaping the world, but about finding that inner sanctuary amidst the chaos.
Okay.
Remember the cow analogy. We need to be mindful of what we're feeding our minds.
Right.
What we're allowing to nourish our spirit. It's about becoming conscious creators of our inner landscape.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But meditation can be tough, especially in our fast-paced world.
It can.
Any tips for those of us who are new to it?
Donahue compares it to driving a car. We don't need to understand every detail of how the engine works to get where we're going.
Yeah.
Similarly, we don't need to have all the answers about spirituality to experience its transformative power.
Okay.
It's about trusting the process, taking that leap of faith, and allowing ourselves to be guided by something greater than ourselves.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off and reminds us that it's okay to not have everything figured out.
Exactly.
And it's important to remember that Donahue isn't advocating for blind faith.
Right.
He actually challenges the idea that we should just blindly accept what we're told by religious authorities.
I see.
Instead, he encourages us to question, to explore, and to find our own truth.
So it's about moving beyond dogma and ritual.
Right. And connecting with the living essence of spirituality.
Precisely.
And that brings us to another key point.
Okay.
Donahue challenges the idea that miracles are external events that happen to us.
Right.
He encourages us to see the miraculous nature of our own being, to recognize that spark of the divine within.
I see.
It's about waking up to the reality that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Wow, that's a profound shift in perspective.
It is.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
It invites us to live with a sense of wonder and awe, appreciating the beauty and interconnectedness of all things.
It also empowers us to take responsibility for our own spiritual growth and contribute to the collective awakening of humanity. Donahue reminds us that we're not just passive observers in this cosmic play, but active participants in the unfolding of consciousness.
That's incredibly inspiring.
It is.
But before we get too carried away,
I'm curious to know what Donahue says about actually putting these ideas into practice. What concrete steps can we take to cultivate this inner transformation?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that Donahue addresses directly.
Okay.
He offers some practical advice for unlocking our spiritual potential. And we can get into those when we come back for our next deep dive.
All right. Sounds good. So we're back and ready to hear about those specifics you mentioned on unlocking our spiritual potential.
Yeah. Donahue emphasizes self-awareness as a starting point.
Okay.
He reminds us of the cow analogy. We need to be mindful of what we're feeding our minds. It's about recognizing our thought patterns and choosing to focus on those that nourish our spirit.
I see.
It's like becoming the gardener of our own inner landscape.
Okay.
Weeding out negativity and planting seeds of peace.
Yeah.
Love and wisdom.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We can't expect to experience inner peace
if
we're constantly bombarded by negativity, whether it's from our own thoughts or external sources.
And this requires discipline.
Okay.
A willingness to step outside our comfort zones and challenge our ingrained patterns.
So it's not about becoming perfect overnight.
Right.
What about taking small, consistent steps towards a more awakened way of being?
And Donahue reminds us that this journey isn't a solitary one.
Oh.
We can draw strength and inspiration from others who are on a similar path.
I see.
It's about connecting with like-minded individuals, sharing our experiences and supporting each other along the way.
That's a beautiful reminder.
It is.
That we're all in this together.
Yes.
We don't have to figure it all out on our own.
Nope.
There's a whole community of seekers out there.
There is.
Ready to support and guide us.
Absolutely. And that's where resources like the Becoming Ultimate Masters podcast come in.
Exactly. And speaking of resources, Donahue's talk is definitely one that's worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
Where can our listeners find it?
You can find the video on YouTube. By searching for 103 Introduction to Krishna. It's hair, not Harry.
All right. And for those who are looking for more personalized guidance?
Yes. You can visit their website at www.ultimatemasters.org/coaching.
Okay.
Or reach out to them on WhatsApp at +2 5 6 7 7 1 3 2 4 1 1 9.
Well, this deep dive has been really fascinating.
It is.
Highlighting the interconnectedness of seemingly disparate spiritual traditions.
Right.
And offering practical insights for our own inner transformation. It's a reminder that the path to awakening is not about dogma or ritual, but about personal experience and inner transformation.
It's about cultivating a deep connection with our own inner divinity, recognizing that spark of the divine within each of us.
Absolutely, and it's about sharing that light with the world.
It is.
Contributing to the collective awakening of humanity.
Beautifully said.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
And I hope our listeners have found it as inspiring as I have.
I hope so too.
Remember, the journey to awakening is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
A lifelong adventure of self-discovery and transformation.
It is.
And it's a journey worth taking.
Yes.
One step at a time.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Krishna.
Don't forget to check back daily for new episodes.
We've got lots more deep dives coming your way.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light.